Hi and welcome to Geeks for Geeks. Can I have a quick +1 in the chat if I'm visible as well as equally audible? So I would start right away. Just let me know if I'm visible as well as equally audible or not. So 13 of them are already waiting and I am now. Hi Satyabrat Oja, hi Manav Verma, hi Bipin Chand Desha. Okay, so we have 39 viewers. Quickly like the video, and we have Hera Azaz popping in. Hey Hera Azaz, how are you? Everyone had your dinner, by the way? Okay, so today we would be learning the most vital topic in my point of view. Thanks a lot, Muskan. First, in the first view, thinking recursively, writing a recursive code, and then writing the iterative code in the latter part of the DP solutions would be very tough. Trust me, it would be tough. Okay, but you need to go with this pain. Why you need to go with this pain? Because without recursion, you won't be able to solve a backtracking problem. Okay, so let me just tell you where at which positions recursion is involved. Without recursion, you won't be able to solve backtracking problems. Without recursion, you won't be able to solve graph problems. You won't be able to solve tree problems. Okay, and then you won't be able to solve dynamic programming. Okay, then you won't be able to solve DSU and many more topics. To be honest, if you don't know recursion, you won't be having the essence of recursion, and competing without knowing recursion would be very tough. To be honest, it would be very tough. Yeah, I'm also fine, Hera. Okay, so now let's just learn recursion and how is it done. So first we would learn why do we need recursion. Then we would learn how we do recursion. But before all these questions popping in, we would first learn what is recursion. Okay, so basically recursion क्या होता है कि we call, suppose मैंने अपने छोटे भाई को बुलाया, उसने अपने छोटे भाई को बुलाया, उसने अपने छोटे भाई को बुलाया, and we would keep calling till we call the most youngest person. Okay, so let me just check what are the number of live viewers. Okay, the number of live viewers is absolutely very less. Can someone just float this link in the Telegram group? Preferably the admins. The admin of the Telegram group, if you are there, you can just float the link in the Telegram group so that people would know and people would join. Okay, so this is what. But there are other forms of recursion too. We would learn about tailed and null-tailed. We would learn about direct and indirect recursion. Okay, then we learn about why do we need recursion. We need recursion to break down a very big problem into small sub problems till it can be solved manually. अब इसका क्या मतलब है? बोल दिया चला गया ऊपर से. Okay, I will tell you. So what we do is, we suppose there is a very big problem. We divide it into small parts of it, and we divide till the part is so small that we can solve this problem manually. Okay, yeah, hi Aryan, how are you? Okay, fair enough. Then we would proceed. How do we do recursion? How do we do recursion would be done by coding the problems itself. Okay, so let's just learn how to find the factorial of a number. To find the factorial of a number, let us first learn what is the factorial of a number. So the factorial of 5 is equal to 1 into 2 into 3 into 4 into 5. Okay, the factorial of 3 would be 1 into 2 into 3 itself. This is what is there. Fair enough, this is what we have. Then moving forward, suppose I just give you a number and I want you to find the factorial. So if I want you to find the factorial, suppose I give you the value 3, then what you would do is, you would start with a value 1, then you would multiply with a value 2, then you would multiply with a value 3, and whatever is the answer, suppose 6 in the answer, you would provide me with this. This is how we would code the factorial of a number. So let's just quickly code the factorial of a number. Okay, so we have the int n, then we would do the c in n. Then what we would do is we would start the for loop int I is equals to 1, I is less than equal to the n itself and I plus plus. Then we have the answer, int answer is equals to 1 itself. Then what we would do is answer is equals to answer into the value I itself. Whatever is coming after this point, we just do the cout of this answer itself. Then to check the value, we would just delete the pre-test cases, we would stop this test case, we would run the test case, suppose 3 itself. Okay, fair enough. Let's just run this for the example 3 and the value is 6, which is absolutely correct. Now tell me that till this point this is clear or not. Then we would try to solve this using recursion. Then we would proceed with the lecture. Okay, let me just see who's okay. Thanks a lot Vipin, thanks a lot. Okay, thanks a lot Vipin and thanks a lot Sai. Okay, just tell me that till this point this is clear or not. So we have 0 frame drops till now, we are live for 6 minutes and the CPU usage is quite less and we can proceed. Thanks a lot SS. So let's proceed. Only one reply is enough. Fair enough. So let's now find the factorial of a number using recursion. Okay, using recursion itself. Okay, fair enough. So using recursion, so what we would do is the return type would be an int. So there in recursion there are different parts of recursion. First one is the return type. Then we have the name of the function itself. Then we have the parameters, we would name it as param, and then we would have, if it is a tailed recursion, we would have the base case at this point. So I would just write tail, and if it is not a tailed recursion, we would just write the base case here and we would just say non-tailed. Okay, and this would be here, it would be the intermediate case. Fair enough. So we know till this point. Now we move forward and we then ask that what is the return type of this factorial. So basically we are giving a number and we are given back a number only. We are not given the multiplication. Rather 1 into 2 into 3 into 4 into 5, after the multiplication whatever the value is obtained, we would just provide the values. This is what is there. Okay, so according to this the return type should be int. Okay, and as we are calculating the factorial, so let's just name it as fact. Okay, and then whatever we are providing to the function, it will, what is non-tailed, I would tell you. What is non-tailed, I would explain you, no problem. Just let us try to solve the previous problem using recursion, and then we would okay, non-tailed is something like the base case is called at the tailed. Tailed means what? Tail means at the last. So tail means base case would be at the last. If it is not tailed, the base case would be at the front itself. Okay, the most simple example. Now what is a parameter? A parameter are the requirements. Okay, whatever is required, this is the parameter itself. This is the parameter. Now we would try to do up the base case. So let whatever we have summarized till now, just write it. So we have int as the return type, we have fact as the name of the value, and then we have the number int n. Then we would have this. Till this point we know. Now the base case itself. So let's just see what is the base case. So we are coming to 5, then we are calling 4, then we are calling 3, then we are calling 2, then we are calling 1. And when we reach 1, we are stop at that position. When we reach at that position, when we reach at 1, we would stop at this position. So we would just write if n is equal to 1, then we would simply return 1. the smallest test case that is there. So whenever we talk about base case, let's just talk a little bit about base case. Okay, so base case can be of two types. First is the smallest valid input, and the next type is the smallest invalid input. Invalid input. What do you mean by this, Siddharth? I would explain you. Oops concept used in CP or not? I don't think oops concept is much required in CP. Whenever you try to build up a repository of your own, suppose you want to build a template for DSU, suppose you want to build a template for Kruskals algorithm, then at all these points, oops concept is required. Rather than this, it's not required. Okay, fair enough. So we are talking about the base case. I told that base case is the smallest test case that can be solved manually. Okay, the first definition. The second definition, smallest valid input. Okay, सबसे छोटा जो input था और वो valid भी था, which can be solved by hand. This would be our base case. Okay, so here we are coming to the conclusion that when we reach 1, we would stop. So when n is equal to 1, we would return 1. Okay, and when n is not equal to 1, what do we do? Okay, so when n is not equal to 1, we would multiply this number and we would go to the next smaller number. Okay, so what we would do is we would just say return fact of n minus 1 multiplied with n. Okay, and then I would draw the recursion tree. But before this, let me just run this and see if I'm correct or not. Okay, so let's just run this and see. So the return type would be integer, and this would be the fact, and here we would take the int n. So if n is equals to 1, we would return n itself. Else we would do what? Fact of n minus 1 multiplied with the value n itself, and whatever value is coming, we would just print it. Okay, cout fact of n. Okay, and then let's just add an endl2, and let's just see if we are getting the correct output or not. We are getting the correct output in both the cases. Let's just increase the number, and don't worry if you are not getting the complete solution, because I would be telling you more ways. Don't worry about that. It's absolutely fine. Okay, so now we know that this is working absolutely correct. Okay, now I want to know who are the people who are not able to get how is this working. Okay, just tell me how is this working. You are not able to get this. Just tell me quickly. It's absolutely fine. If the number of people who are not getting this is more than 3, I would consider drawing a recursion tree. Else I would just skip the recursion tree part and I would try to do some little bit of standard level problems rather than introducing the topic to you. बताओ बताओ जल्दी जल्दी बताओ, मेरे पास तो पूरा रात है, आपको अपनी बंदी से बात करना है, मैं तो वेला हूं. Quickly tell me. Okay, let's consider drawing the recursion tree. Okay. Now suppose we pass on the fact as 5. Okay, now fact would be referred to as f itself. okay, till the rest of the course. Now fact f of 5 is passed. Okay, is 5 equal to 1? No, it is not. So we would move to f of 4 multiplied with 5 itself. Okay, now f of 4 is equal to 1. No, f of 4 is not equal to 1. So we would go down and call for n minus 1 multiplied with n. So f of 3 multiplied with 4. Okay, then we would move forward. 3 is not equal to 1. So we would go to f of 2 multiplied with 3. Then we would go to f of 1 multiplied with 2. Now when we go to f of 1 would return us 1 only. Okay, so f of 1 would be replaced with 1, because we have clearly mentioned that if n is equal to 1 we would return the value. So 1 into 2. So what is this value? So this value is f of 2 itself. So now f of 2 can be told as 2 itself. So now f of 2 would be replaced by 2. Now 2 into 3 is 6, will be equal to 6. So f of 3 can be replaced with the value 6. Okay, 6 into 4 is equals to 24. Now f of 4 can be replaced with 24. Then we have f of 5, 24 into 5. So what we can do is 5 4s are 20 and 20 into 5 is equal to 100, 120. So 5 4s are 20, 5 2s are 120. So f of 5 is equals to 100 of 20. Okay, now tell me if this recursion tree is clear to you or not. Quickly tell me if this recursion tree is clear to you or not. So we have viewers dropping in, but we can't help it. Okay, just quickly tell me if this recursion tree is clear to you or not. How we are getting the value of the factorial. How we are getting this value. Just tell me. Okay, fair enough. So we have a lot of people saying that this is clear. Okay, now we would solve more problems in the meantime, and then we would learn how the value is coming. Okay, fair enough. So let's just move forward and let us now learn about direct and indirect recursion. Okay, now suppose there is a direct recursion, which means that it will call himself. Okay, and this means that it would call other. Okay, so is it a tailed recursion? So see it by yourself. Is it a tailed recursion? No, it is not a tailed recursion. Okay, because the base case is at the top position. Okay, Chandu, by the way, so let's talk about direct recursion. So direct recursion would call the same function by itself. Indirect recursion would call the other function. Okay, this is the difference between them. Okay, now let's move forward with tailed and non-tailed. Tailed means the base case would be at the top, and non-tailed means the base case can be or cannot be at the top. Fair enough. Then we would move forward and we would learn about. So quickly tell me, so take your time, digest the question, and then tell me the answer to this. We need to write a program and the recurrence relation to find the Fibonacci series of n where n is greater than 2. Okay, So if n is equals to 0, we need to return the n. If n is equals to 1, we need to return the n only in both the cases. Else we need to add the previous two terms. Okay. So if you just talk about, so 0 is equals to 0, 1 is equals to 1, and this would be 0, 0 plus 1 is equals to 2. Now 1 plus 2 is equals to 3, 2 plus 3 is equals to 5, 3 plus 5 is equals to 8, 5 plus 8 is equals to 13. This is how the value moves on and the show would move on. Okay, the show must move on, the show must go on. Yeah, so this is how. So take your time, digest the question and tell me a way how can we solve this problem. Quickly tell me a way how can we solve this problem. Quickly tell me how to solve this problem. Recursion problem statement, what? If n is equal to, recursion problem statement में ही answer है. Yeah, even if it is given, just try your level best to solve it. Just write the recursive code and provide me the code. Find for the, yeah. ये इक्वेशन ही तो आंसर है, या ये इक्वेशन ही आंसर है. जस्ट टेल मी हाउ टू सॉल्व दिस इन कोड. जस्ट एक इजी प्रॉब्लम है. ओके, so what would be the return type of this? What would be the return type of this code itself? Okay, so we are getting a value, okay, so parameters में n तो पक्का रहेगा, and we are providing a value after some computation. So return type में int तो पक्का रहेगा. So the return type would be int. Okay, and we can name it as fib only. Okay, and then we are giving a value. Okay, and if the value is equal to 0 or the value is equal to 1, then we would return this value. Okay, else what we would do is return fib of n minus 1 added with fib of n minus 2. सिंपल है, ज़्यादा कुछ तो है नहीं. Fair enough, इतना ही सिंपल था. And we would just solve. Okay, there is no need to solve this problem. Okay, so now we would, can we do a little bit of intro to DP? Just introduction to DP, just the introduction. एक छोटा सा चीज बताऊंगा and this would be done. एक छोटा सा चीज बताऊंगा. Can I do it if you allow? Okay, now this fact thing is done. Now let us draw the recursion tree of this problem. Okay, suppose I pass on the value fib of suppose 5 itself. Okay, then what we would do is, sir इसको तो loop से भी कर सकते हैं. Yes, we can do it using loops. So now if is fib is equal to 0 or 1? No, it is not. So fib would be what? Fib of 4 plus fib of 3. Then 4 भी बच जाएगा. Fib of 3 and then fib of 2, minus 1 minus 2. Then this one fib of 1 and then fib of 2. Okay, now this till this point we know. Now fib of 1 would be crossed out and we would return 1. Okay, now fib of 2 is what? Fib of 2 is equal to fib of 0 and fib of 1 only. Fib of 2 is equal to fib of 0 and fib of 1. Now for this also, fib of 1 and then fib of 2. For fib of 2, we would go to fib of 0 and we would go to fib of 1, minus 1 and minus 2. Then we would go to minus 1, minus 1, minus 1. So this fib of 1 would be converted to 1, fib of 0 would be converted to 0, fib of 1 would be 1 and then 0, then this would be converted to 0, this would be converted to 1 and this would be converted to 1 itself. Fair enough? So till this point I think I should be clear. So इतना clear है कि नहीं बता दो, मैं थोड़ा हट जाता हूँ. I would just move away from the board itself. Now tell me if this thing is clear or not. If this thing is clear, I would proceed forward. Satyabrat, आप सभी recursion solution को iteration से कर सकते हैं, but recursion is more intuitive. Yeah, absolutely. Thinking recursively is more intuitive. Just quickly बताओ ये clear है कि नहीं? Quickly बताओ. Then I would say you to notice a small thing. Quickly बताओ, ये recursion tree खुद से draw कर लोगे ना? You can draw the recursion tree by yourself, and you now know how this value is coming. Ankit Gadling, thanks a lot, Ankit. So may I have more people popping in? Okay. Now एक छोटा सा चीज, एक छोटा सा problem है. We have a problem here. What is the problem, Siddharth? See, fib of 3 is calculated at this point and fib of 3 is again calculated. Okay, and fib of 2 is calculated here and fib of 2 is also calculated here. So we are calculating the same value multiple number of times, and then fib of 2 is also calculated at this point also, and fib of 1, fib of 0, many things are calculated multiple number of times. Okay, so many times we are doing the same problem multiple number. So basically क्या हो रहा है, recursively सोचना बहुत आसान है, but we are solving a sub problem multiple number of times. We are trying to solve the sub problem multiple number of times. Think it, digest it, write it and learn it by heart. Okay, so इतना तो समझ में आ गया. रिकर्शन कुछ खास ऑप्टिमाइजेशन तो प्रोवाइड करता नहीं है. Okay, recursion is not that much useful to us. Okay, so we need a way where we don't need to calculate the same value again. Okay, so yes, this is correct, but for this only we are calculating the same value again and again. Okay, so what can we do? Okay, suppose we are trying to find the value of 3. So we would calculate the value of 3, then write it down somewhere. Okay, 3's value is calculated, this is the result. Now we would calculate the value of 2 and we would write it somewhere. Yes, 2's value is also calculated, let's write it here. So what I would do is, I would calculate the value of 3, write it. Calculate the value of 2, write it. Then calculate the value of, suppose it is 4, write it. Whatever value we are calculating, we would just write. Any problems on tailed recursion, please, Siddharth? Yeah, I would. Don't worry about it. Please don't say it again. I would do it. Okay, so let's move back. So now suppose when we would again calculate the value of fib of 3, then instead of calculating the value again, why don't we use the dashboard where we have written all the values that we have collected? Tell that is this value calculated? Yes, this value is already calculated. Yes, this is the result, take it. This is what we can do. Okay, fair enough. So let me just write a recursive formula out of this. Okay, recursive code out of this. We would take the value n, we would take this value c in n, and then we would do out fib of n itself. And what we would do is int fib int n, if n is equals to 1 or n is equals to 0, we would return this value n, else int answer is equals to fib of n minus 1 plus fib of n minus 2, and then we can return this answer. Fair enough. काफी simple था ना, काफी simple. And this is written as fin. We need to, yeah. So let's just see it is correct or not. Yes, we are getting a value. Okay. So I should be clear till this point. Okay. Now, just tell me what are the things that are changing. Okay. Now there are 3-4 things that needs to be. Okay. So the first thing is that we need to identify the dynamic things. Okay, the things which are changing. The first thing that is changing is n itself. Okay, the value of n is changing. Okay, and then the answer remains the same for each of the values. So this is also correct. So now what we can do is we can have, so we know that n is changing. So n is changing. So n is till 0 and it would move till 1 to n. Okay, and 0 to n is what? 0 to n is equals to the value integer. Okay, so let's have an array of size n. So int dp of size n. This is what we can have simply. And then what we would do is initially सबके वैल्यू -1 कर दो. That is, we don't know. Okay, let us keep the value as 20 itself. Okay, suppose initially all the value would be equal to -1. Why? Because let's say that this value is not calculated. So what we would do is memset dp of -1 comma size of this dp array. Okay, so let's just write -1. Okay. Now what we would do is, here at this point we are trying to calculate the answer. Just before calculating the answer, we would just see if dp of n is not equal to -1. This means that the value is not calculated. Then we would return dp of n. Else what we would do is, just before returning, इसका value तो calculated नहीं था, we would just tell it that dp, hey you, dp of n is equals to the value answer itself. Okay, and now let us just see if the value is same or not. So the value is still 3, and then we would discuss the time complexity too. Okay, so we just now did what? We just now did dynamic programming. Okay, we just now solved this problem using dynamic programming. So you can say that if you, dp states that if you can't remember your past, you are condemned to repeat it. Okay, so dp always says that you need to remember your past, learn from your mistakes, and then you need to move on. Okay, now tell me if till this point this is correct or not. So we initiated with a small Fibonacci problem, and I told you to give the recursive version of it. Then we wrote the recursive version of it, and then we tried to write the DP formula of it. Hey Himanshu, how are you? Yeah, मैंने पहचान लिया CP20. Okay, So quickly see me if I'm clear or not. Just quickly let me know, then I would be moving forward. We are live for 35 minutes and the number of frame drop is still 0.0%. And the CPU usage is 14%, which is quite clear. What is this memset? Memset बताता हूँ. Memset is nothing but it sets each and every value to the value that we are providing. But it only works on 0 and -1. Why? Because it works bit by bit. Okay. So मतलब can you explain again the DP approach? मैं explain करने के लिए तो बैठा हुआ हूँ. मैं और किस काम का हूँ? Explain करने के लिए ना. ओके, सो मेमसेट के बारे में डिस्कशन करते हैं. सो मेमसेट क्या होता है ना, इनिशियली जो एरे डिक्लेयर करते हैं हम लोग, ग्लोबल वाले नहीं, ग्लोबल वाले में इनिशियल वैल्यू 0 होता है. बट इफ वी आर डिक्लेयरिंग इट इनसाइड द मेन फंक्शन और एनी अदर फंक्शन, then it would have a garbage value, but that garbage value depends upon the compiler to compile it. Okay, so initially जो garbage value होता है वो तो हमें चाहिए नहीं, so initially हम उसको -1 से initiate कर देते हैं. Okay, then let's talk a bit about this DP approach. Okay, first what we would do is we would first remove this. Okay, now this is not equal to DP. ये तो DP नहीं है. We are just calling the n is equals to 1, n is equals to 0, then we are returning with n. Then int answer fib of n minus 1 and fib of n minus 2. The recursion tree is here and here is the equation itself. If n is equals to 0, n is equals to 1, then we would get it. Okay, fair enough. This is what it is. Now we would identify the dynamic values. Okay, dynamic values of these all things. So what are the things changing? For a particular input, the answer remains the same and the only thing that is changing is the given n itself. The given n कितनी values तक जा सकता है? So n starts from 0 and would go till n is equals to n itself. We know that. मेमसेट का बताया तो अगले बार बताऊंगा, 5 रुपया ले लूंगा. ओके, सो मेमसेट क्या होता है, इनिशियली एरेज का वैल्यू गार्बेज वैल्यू रहता है. ओके, सो वी आर जस्ट इनिशिएटिंग द वैल्यू ऑफ मेमसेट विद द वैल्यू -1. ओके, सो n का वैल्यू 0 से n रहेगा. सो वी वोंट डू एनीथिंग. वो रिपीटेड कैलकुलेशंस को प्रिवेंट करने के लिए वी वुड जस्ट से दैट एट दिस पोजिशन we would declare int dp of 20 and we would do the memset thing, and before the calculation we would just take if dp of n is not equal to -1, then we would return dp of n, and if it is already not calculated then dp of n is equal to answer. Then what, see, दो चीज होती है. Okay, first is that if the value is already calculated, return me that. If the value is not calculated, calculate it and just register it to wherever you are trying to keep. Okay. Now for the people, Muskan Dhawan, can you just tell me that if this thing is clear or not? Just quickly tell me if this thing is clear or not so that I can move forward. So can I have at least 1 or 2 yes or no so that I can move forward? Okay, so this is just now we did about dynamic programming. Okay, memset in Python works the same way, right? I'm not well versed in Python, sorry about that, but if you ask me after this stream I would just look into that and I would tell you. Okay, Thanks a lot, Ankit. Thanks a lot, Codex. Thanks a lot. Okay, so let's move to the next problem now. Thanks a lot, many. Rishi Goel. Thanks a lot, Himanshu. Thanks a lot, Bipin Chand. Thanks a lot, Shubham, Manav, Rupam, and Somodeep, Nilesh, SS. Okay. So, what are the disadvantages of using recursion? Okay. So just read about this, but still I would just explain you the main things that you need to understand. Both recursive and the iterative program. So iterative is nothing but saving the values and just doing it iteratively, and recursive, as I have shown you, have the same problem solving powers. Okay, and as someone told in the chat itself that every recursive program can be written iteratively and vice versa. Okay, but the recursive program has greater space requirement than the iterative. Okay, why? Because till we reach the base condition, it would remain in the call stack. Now, what is call stack? Call stack is a kind of virtual memory kind of thing that you need. Okay, yeah, Mushkan, is absolutely fine. So it also requires greater time requirement because of the function calls and returns overhead. Returns overhead means वो जो ऊपर function चलते रहता है, that is. Okay. Now till this point I should be clear, and if I am clear till this point, then let's do a quick hard problem over recursion, and then we would end this session after a quick AMA session of 3 minutes. Okay, so what is the question? The question is such that find all the permutations of the given string. Okay, so we are given a string and we need to find all the permutations. Okay, so let's suppose the given input is A, B and C itself. Okay, can we write backtracking iteratively? No, we can't write backtracking iteratively. Why? Backtracking is the way that we move to a particular direction. If we can reach the solution, we would register it and then we would come back. But if that is not the case, then we need to try all possibilities, and trying all possibilities iteratively is not feasible. But sir, I've studied that only tailed recursive program converted into iterative program. No, it is not that case. No, it is not that case. So we are given an input string and you need to find all the permutations of the given string. Okay, so if you are a C++ coder and you are well versed with the C++ STL, then you can solve this easily. Suppose this question appeared in an interview. So what you can do is you can simply take the input of the string S, then cin S, then while the next permutation, okay, next permutation of S dot begin to S dot end is true, we would see out the value S, and this would be small a, and this would be what? This would be A, B, and this would be C itself, and then let's just print it. So I just wrote string instead of the string. Okay, so I forgot to have an endl here, so let's just have an endl here, and these are all the permutations of ABC. The permutations of ABC are ACB, BAC, BCA, CAB and CBA. This is it, what we can do. Okay, this is a very small bit of code that you can use. By the way, this problem is a backtracking problem. Okay, just to keep that in mind. Okay, the level of the problem, and this problem is a very famous interview problem. So just take all these things into consideration and just tell me. Yeah, Ankit Maurya, you are absolutely correct. तो ठंड बढ़ गया. What is the temperature at your place? कितनी ठंड है? यहाँ तो काफ़ी ठंड है. Today it was raining the whole day, and when I went out in the evening, I was drenched in water. I was completely drenched in water, to be honest. So what if we use the previous permutation? The previous permutation is nothing. Next permutation के पहले वाला permutation. Okay. Is this session for beginners as well? Yes, this session is for beginners. Why? Because we start from the definition. I tell you that what is it, and then I give you real life scenarios. Then I write some programs. Then I do many number of simple problems. Then I do one standard problems. Freak web. It is 5 degrees Celsius at your place. Baap re baap. I live in Jharkhand, by the way. Freak wave, Manav degree 11. हाँ दादा Kolkata. Okay, yeah. It's raining in Kolkata. Okay, fair enough. Let's focus on the problem itself. Okay, so we need to find all the permutations of the given string. Okay, so 21 degree in Hyderabad. Hyderabad is a very good state. Hyderabad is a very good city. I visited Hyderabad, by the way. So let's start. So what can be done is, we would start. This is index 0, this is index 1, and this is index 2 itself. So first A is swapped with itself. A is swapped with itself. So if A is swapped with itself, the value would be A, B and C. If A is swapped with B, the value would be B, A and C. Now if A is swapped with C, the value would be C, B and A. These are all the 4 values, okay, that we would just see. Suppose this is 1 point, this is 1 point, this is 1 point. So I would stand here and swap with this position, and then I would stand there, I would swap at this position. Okay, now I would take hold of the second character B, and I would swap this with this. So I would do this for all. Okay, now B would be swapped with itself. So if B is swapped with itself, something is swapped with itself, it would remain the same. So A, B and C. If B is swapped with C, this would become what? This would become A, C and B. Now if B, A and C, now the second character is again being swapped. Now A is swapped with C. Now B, C and A. Now again this would be swapped with itself only, B, A and C. Now this B would be swapped with first itself, that C, B, A, and B would be swapped with A, that is C, A and B itself. Okay, now in this point of time we swapped the first character. At this point we swapped the second character of each of the string, and then we need to swap the third character of each of the string. If we swap the third character, then ABC would remain ABC, ACB would remain ACB because B is swapped with itself, then BCA is swapped with itself, then BAC is also swapped with itself, then CBA is also swapped with, and CAB is also swapped, like this. So I can just move little bit right, and then you can just see. Okay, now tell me if this thing is clear or not, how we are getting all the values. Then let us just cross check each of the values. Okay, so ABC, ACB, BCA, ACB, BCA, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, because ABC is also there, whatever was given in the input itself. So this is sir, there is non-coding your GF in Hyderabad, sir. No, you find me a good GF for me. Still single, bro. Sir, there is non-coding environment in Google, Amazon, Microsoft and other companies? I'm not aware of that. Trust me. Yes, Divedi. Hey, Yash, how are you? Good evening. Okay, so fair enough. This was how we come to the conclusion that we are getting the different permutations of the given string. Now quickly tell me if this thing is clear or not. Quickly tell me if this thing is clear or not. May I have a quick yes or no from you? So if you want, you can just do it on a pen and paper, then you can see it for yourself, by the way. Okay, thanks a lot, Hera. Anyone else for whom this thing is clear? Then I would move forward. Sir, what is your domain? Still trying to find. Okay, thanks a lot, Ankit. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Ankit Maurya. Thanks a lot, Ankit Gadling. Thanks a lot, Rishi. Okay, this thing is clear. So, do you want me to code? Okay, let's code it also. Okay, so what we would do is we would have a string at each of these positions. Okay, but there is a problem too. What is the problem? That we need to first do a damage. Okay, first we need to swap a with a, or suppose a with b, then we would get this string. If we swap, then we need to swap back. मतलब क्या करना ना, पहले we would swap this with this, then we would compute the result, and then we need to swap back. मतलब जो damage किया है उसको पीछे जाओ. Okay, can you explain the code quickly? Yeah, I would do that, no worries. So basically क्या कर रहा, we are doing a damage, we are reversing that damage, and we are coming back. We are doing a damage, reversing that damage, and we are coming back. This is what we are doing. Fair enough. So we need to have a vector of strings. Okay, so let's have a vector of string, and let's name it as v, and then this would return wired, and this would named as rec, and this would be the string s, and it would be the integer I, and it would tell us at which point we are at the current position. Then what we would do is, if we have reached the end, if I is equal to n, then we would just do v dot push back the current string s. Okay, and then we need to return. Okay, then what we would do is we would have a for loop int I is equals to 0 for int I, and then I is less than equal to less than s dot size itself, and we have I plus plus. Okay, sorry about that, sorry. So we would stand at a particular index, and then we would swap the values. We would stand at a particular index, swap the values. So what we would do is int I is int, suppose the swap value 1, the j is equal to I itself, j is less than s dot size, and then j plus plus, and then we do what? We have for int k is equal to j itself, j is less than s dot size. Okay, and then we do j plus plus, and then we swap s of I, s of j with s of k. Okay, then we just compute the value, and then we swap back. This is just it. And then we reached at the end. See, when we reached at the end, when the last character was swapped, we got a string itself. So we would take that in string, insert it to the vector, then we would come back. Then when we reach the end, this is the condition, then we would start from the 0th index. So start would be done from the 0th index, the ending would be done when we would reach the end of the string. These all things would be done. Okay, so now this is the end of the session. Now you can just ask me anything if you want. Okay. So can you explain the code, sir, why C is more efficient than Python in terms of runtime? Python seems to save only programmers time. I don't get your question. So please say how to track recursion inside for loop and also define the variable inside recursion and using it. So basically there are two ways of passing on variables to a recursive, that is pass by reference, pass by value. Pass by value means that the value would get changed. The value won't get changed, and pass by reference means the value would get changed. Now I would just give you a live demo of that. So if I just do simple, and if I just do int, so if I just do fib of fib, and then I take a value int, and then I do n is equal to n into 2, and then I just return whatever the value it is, I would return. And then suppose int n is equals to 5, then I would pass it to the value fib, and then I would do see out the value n itself. So let's just see what is the value. The value of this should be 10, but the value is still 5. The value is not changing. Now suppose I want to edit the values. So what I can do is I can simply inculcate an ampersand sign before the variable. This means that the variable would be passed by reference, that whatever we do the damage to the variable, it would be carried on for the rest of the program. So now if n is equal to 2, then it would become 10 itself. The value is getting changed when we pass on an ampersand sign, else the value won't get changed if we are not finding an ampersand sign. Should I keep in practice in C? Keep in practice in C, and when you are good with C, just shift to C++, learn the STL, and it's good to go. You find all the possible pairs such that a plus b is equal to a and b are both natural numbers. A plus b is both equal to n. So your question is, so suppose we have a plus b is equals to n. N would be given, n is the size, and then we have a and b. So what can be there is the b is equal to n minus a. So what you can do is you can take hold, suppose there is 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. So what you can do is n minus 1, whatever the value it is, you can just find it using a hash map, and then you can go to n minus 2, you can find the value by using a hash map. How many programming language do you know? I know JavaScript, I know React, I know C++, I know Java. But I don't recommend doing this much problems, this much. Okay, why I don't use oops in DP? Then how we solve real world problem? Why don't we use oops in DP? Dynamic programming. Why do we need to use oops in dynamic programming? Can you just tell me? Thanks, sir, and Rishi Goel. You're most welcome. So that's it for today. We have a lot of viewers still now, so if you want to ask me anything, you are more welcome to ask me, or else I would just end the session here. By the way, I'm not quite accustomed to get called by sir, so just call me Siddharth or whatever is fine with you. Okay, so that's it for today. Thank you and have a nice day. Good night, everyone. Sweet dreams.